Hello, everyone. This is Luxley, living in the world of Game of Thrones and Azeroth, kind of meshed together, and kind of putting all my spare time into figuring out if Game of Thrones characters played WoW, or if they were in WoW, what class would best describe them. And to help me along with this, I brought along Thamriyell.
Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Thamriyell. Welcome to the video.
Rather than wait till the end, let's tell people what it is that you do and why they should go check you out.
I do Let's Plays on several MMOs and RPG games. I mostly try to focus on RPG games simply because I like them. I don't want to really dabble, like Dark Souls and all that. I like games with story. So like MMOs that have, personal story stuff, I really enjoy it. So I'm currently playing out of MMOs, ESO, Final Fantasy XIV Online with Heaven Wars expansion already out, and I'm playing Guild Wars 2 with literally their community are like the Canadians of all MMOs. They're like the nicest people ever. Aside from MMOs, I'm also playing Skyrim, modded all the way to be like a survival adventure kind of thing.
So that sounds like a lot of good things to go check out. I watch them on a regular basis. If you have some spare time, go check them out. Davos is a very interesting character. Like a lot of characters on Game of Thrones, his principles come into conflict. Those principles being loyalty and decency, which is very, very interesting coming from a guy who essentially is a smuggler, aka a thief. That's what's just so profoundly interesting about Game of Thrones. It just breaks those genres. It breaks those characteristics of characters that you've seen for many years, but yet there's some individuality to him. Here's a thief that respects decency, that respects honor and loyalty. Not common threads of a thief. He built his legacy by saving Stannis and delivering food while he was stacked up in his keep trying to defend it in the first war, which was Robert Baratheon's rebellion. Stannis was just kind of shipped off to stay in his keep. They were running out of food. In Davos, they call him the Onion Knight because he smuggled in all these onions and food to keep Stannis' troops alive and keep him from losing that key position. Davos is kind of one of the audience characters. Any movie that you see, any TV show, there's always one character who's very grounded in reality that the audience can relate to. What the audience is thinking is often what he's saying. That character is Davos. Davos is a very blue-collar guy, and he's got this strange loyalty and respect for a guy who literally hacked off 4 of his fingers. Davos only sees things in shades of gray. Yeah, he knows what's really right to do, and he also knows what's really wrong to do. And he'll defend what's right till he dies, and he'll fight against what's wrong till he dies. That's what's interesting about Davos. But most of what Davos sees are huge shades of gray. Now, Stannis is the same way. He sees the shades of gray, but he can find very quickly, very readily, the black and white in that. And I think that that's what Davos really respects about Stannis and why he pledges his loyalty to him. Because he just doesn't have that trait. Davos is that blue-collar guy who aspires to greatness and wants to create a legacy for his family name, for his family, not necessarily for him, and he's achieved that. He's called the Onion Knight. He's a smuggler by trade. He's a thief by trade. We got to go with Sub-Brogue.
Yeah, I'll probably have to agree. Either combat or sub. Because, he's not really much of a guy that hides in the shadows, but at the same time, it is pretty admirable he was able to... Well, the fact that he's able to smuggle onions and water and all that, that's, being undetected, that's pretty impressive. Yeah, definitely a rogue of a sort.
Here's a really tough one. Daenerys Targaryen, the mother of dragons, one of the more
here we go.
One of the more fascinating characters on the show, who starts off as this timid little girl who now has an army of thousands and is parading through Essos. Is that the place? I don't know. I get all confused. I don't even know what my adjacent state is. But she marries Khal Drogo, and one of the most profound and staggering lines came from her twisted brother Viserys, who says, "I would let all of 5,000 Khal Drogo's men fuck you."
And horses.
If it meant... What's that?
And horses.
Yeah, and horses. I forgot about the horses. I'd let all his men and horses fuck you if it meant that I could get my throne back. I mean, even just the dichotomy between Viserys and Daenerys is just makes Daenerys look that much more innocent, that much more timid. She's like crying on her wedding day. She doesn't want to do this. She's like, do I have a say in this? And Viserys looks at her and says, no, you don't. You're getting married to this guy. And it's interesting how she takes a situation that she was terrified of, how a situation that she absolutely dreaded, and turns it into a metamorphosis to become someone amazing. And you even saw during season 1 some very subtle hints that she was this special woman. When she is stepping into the bath that is like, burn your skin off hot. Her maidens say, don't do that, Daenerys. It's hot. And she just like walks right in like it's nothing. When she picks up the dragon egg and it was all hot and heated and it was like red hot, it doesn't affect her. So she's starting to realize that she's got this special ability and this special trait. And then at the end, when she loses everything, she loses her child, she loses Khal Drogo, the Dothraki disappear on her and only her true loyal people remain. That's when she's like, I'm going to find out if this is who I really am or I'm not. And I admire that quality. And she stepped into the fire and she comes out and there's 3 baby dragons. And I love those dragons. Those dragons are the coolest thing. Drogon, Viserion, and Rhaegal. Great, great dragons. And she has this telepathic ability to speak to the dragons and empathize with the dragons. I think she feels what they feel and they feel what she feels. She has this empathy going on with them. She is a character who has an enormous capacity, a beautiful heart, a great, genuine, loving heart. But if you cross this woman, she's not making you breakfast. That's just it. It's just not happening. She, as not much of a capacity she has for compassion, she has a capacity to just sick her dragons on you when she's wronged. And she's yet to be wrong. Every time she's been wrong or crossed, she's been right. Maybe, all right, you can argue, locking Mr. Duck Sauce and her handmaiding in the vault is kind of ruthless, or how she, did the old crisscross against the slave handler and slave master guy who was selling slaves and suckered dragon on him and burned everybody to the ground. All right, but she wasn't wrong. Her judgment was accurate. And now that she has Tyrion by her side, I think her judgment is even going to be that much better. And that's the one thing I think she lacks a little confidence with, is that she wants to be true to what her heart is, her goodness is, but sometimes she knows she has to be ruthless. She doesn't like doing it. And I think sometimes that's a huge gray area for her. So someone like Tyrion is going to help her with that. This is one of the toughest ones to try to figure out. I think shaman, I think earth and fire and water and the mother of I'm going with shaman.
Pretty good class. If I would personally go with mage, simply because, well, I mean, even though in the beginning of the show she starts as kind of like, I guess, this sort of half-broken girl that really has no say in this, she kind of metaphorically and at the same time physically finds this fire inside of her, and over the time just kind of lets it grow. I mean, I understand that. Yeah, I would definitely agree with Sean, but at the same time, I definitely could see her being as a mage. She's not kind of person that would kind of get in the way of things. Mages stay in range all the time, and she's able to slowly become better and better at staying in range, calculating her strategy, and then acting upon it with fire. And her fire gets representing her power, her ambitions, and as well as the fire from the dragons.
It was a tough call for me. I mean, I can see it going either way, and I'm thinking I really can. I mean, I think I leaned a little bit towards shaman just simply because you can have the fire elemental a little bit more, and fire is a part of that whole repertoire of shaman. And I think Mother Earth, and Earth lends towards shaman, wind, water, fire. I just wind with the dragons, behind her back, that kind of thing. But seriously, you're right. Fire Mage is just as accurate. It's you could really go either way. Next up, character who I would have liked to have seen live a little bit longer, but that's something you could say of just about everybody. And that's Renly Baratheon. Renly had it right from the beginning. He really did. He said to Ned Stark after Robert Baratheon passed away, Robert was like, well, Stannis is going to be king until, Joffrey is of age. And Renly didn't like that. Renly wanted the power. And I don't even think Renly would have sought the power if it wasn't for Loras Tyrell. Loras Tyrell was the one, his lover, was the one that was saying, Renly, you could be a great king. You should be king. The people love you. And they do. They did. They really did. You find out that when Renly starts his claim for the throne, he's a very loved and respected character. He really is. And he's really, as far as battle is concerned, as far as politics is concerned, war is concerned, he's achieved nothing. He's kind of like Obama in that respect. I mean, I don't want to take away anything from Obama, but he, on paper, when it comes to a resume, when Obama was elected president, he's probably one of the least qualified presidents to ever step into office. Doesn't mean he's bad, doesn't mean he's incompetent, but I kind of see a lot of parallels with Renly in that regard. Because Renly has achieved nothing. Renly is not a warrior. Renly is not a politician, but people respect him. Brienne respected him so immensely, and it took us a while to find out why, but she pledges her undying loyalty for him. And when it came to rallying the Baratheon house, a significant amount of more people went towards Renly Baratheon rather than Stannis. Renly would have probably been the best king, honestly. I mean, aside from maybe, a Daenerys or Jon Snow or even Tyrion, who may or may not have something to do with the throne later on, I think he would have been a great king. I really do. He had a sense of fairness. He had a sense of urgency. He knew what was important and what wasn't important. He was a decisive person. Renly's a tough call. He's not a warrior. He's not a fighter. He's not a caster. I really got to go with like a priest, maybe a disc priest.
Yeah, I'll have to go with disc priest as well. It's kind of sucks that he was, I don't know, that he didn't play a bigger role. I feel like this character could have gone far and wide, and as fun as it would be to see him, go far and beyond, actually, try to compete with Stannis. It's, I don't know, although it sucks that, spoilers by the way, he got killed off. He gets killed off.
Season 2, right?
Yeah, if you haven't watched it, then
yeah,
sorry. I mean, he got killed off, and although it kind of sucks, I feel like I feel like there was a pre-planned thing to kind of have him there and then just not have him. Be like, hey, look, a potential king. Oh no, he is dead. But yeah, he didn't really play an act.
Long live the queen.
He didn't really do a lot of. Yeah, I think so. He didn't really do a lot of things, so I can't really call him anybody who is an active, upfront kind of person. So I definitely have to say priest.
Yeah, it is.
A very dirty priest.
And you should expect for clarity will, so that Wraith doesn't stab him in the back like it happened. Another spoiler.
Yeah.
One of my absolute favorite characters is next. And I'm really glad they brought him back for Season 5, although he's not as impressive in Season 5 as he was earlier in the show, and that is good old Jaqhen H'gar, the Faceless Man. I love this guy. He had tremendous swag. He was really smooth. He was slippery. You never really knew who he was, but you wanted to know more about him, and he just kind of was bled out slowly but surely. And there are rumors that Jaqhen H'gar was also Arya's sword instructor in Season 1, and also other different types of beings throughout her life. He's a mysterious guy. He worships the Faceless God. He's very loyal to the Faceless God. I'm even surprised that I don't even know what he was doing in Westeros in the first place. I don't even know how he got captured in the first place. I mean, he's the kind of guy that could slip out of anything. I mean, he had more powers than he lent on that he had. This guy's kind of tough. He really is. There's that slipperiness of a rogue, but there's also that craftiness of a warlock. But I'm going to go with rogue.
Yeah, I'd have to go with Rogue as well. The thing about, I guess, his organization, his order, and just what they do, it just, to me, that screams pretty much subtlety Rogue, because the fact that they're able to, like, he doesn't even refer to himself, he refers to himself, this man, or the man. He refers to himself as just a man. He doesn't usually say his own name. Even, there's a quote over here that says, I gotta put up here on the video, where one of his first introductions is, this man has the honor to be Jaqhen H'gar. So, I mean, that kind of tells me that he could be changing to different names as well, and, you know, staying within the shadows, never really revealing the identity, or never really owning up to even having an identity. So that screams totally subtlety Rogue.
I agree. Yeah, it really does. I mean, I did lean a little bit towards the warlock because of the darkness, and screw it, it's sub rogue, no doubt. Now we're going to move along, and we're going to hit up one of my favorite characters, spoiler alert, who's fucking dead. Just, this one bothered me. Robb Stark. Robb Stark has a lot of parallels to his father. In the prequel to the story, Ned's father and his older brother are called into King's Landing at the bidding of the Mad King, Aegon Targaryen. And essentially he burns them because he's a pyromaniac, he's crazy, and he's just all pissed off, and he burns them. This sets off a war. This hooks up Ned Stark with his teenage buddy, Robert Baratheon, and they basically hook up with Jon Arryn and create Robert's Rebellion. Very, very interesting parallel, because the same thing happens in Game of Thrones to Robb Stark. His father is in King's Landing. He's taken prisoner. He's basically called a traitor and gets his head chopped off. Totally the same parallel. Also, whether or not this is true, we don't know, but let's assume that it is. During the war, Ned Stark fell in love with some tavern wench, and hence Jon Snow comes into the world. I don't think that's true, but that's what George R. R. Martin wants us to believe, so we'll believe it for now. Kind of the same thing happens to Robb Stark. He's pledged to one of Walder Frey's daughters in order to cut a deal, in order to advance Walder Frey by having him marry a daughter into House Stark and advance Robb Stark to cross this bridge, which saves him a lot of trouble and time. But he falls in love with some girl who's from Volantis, and next thing you know, they're getting it on just because it's HBO, and they have to show nudity, right, Tim? And
it's in the contract.
It is. And so they hook it up, and they get it on, and this is bad. This is bad because he breaks an oath. And oath breaking, especially when in the North, is a bad, bad thing. And I could see why, in the end, Robb Stark's men kind of rebel against him. But Robb Stark was just a great character to me, because here's a guy who rose to the occasion. Nobody expected him to be this talented, gifted, prodigy kind of general who just literally came on and had like a 10-0 record right out of the gate, captures Jaime Lannister, does everything right, every strategical move. He has a guy like Tywin Lannister scratching his head, who is probably, other than Stannis, one of the greatest battle strategists, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, we're trying. New words, new language. And it's amazing because he's just a kid. He really is. I mean, just the way he stepped into that role. I mean, even Theon sees his hand shaking. He's like, "Are you nervous?" He says, "Why is your hand shaking?" He's like, "Yeah, I think I am." And he's like, Theon says, "Good." And he says, "Why good?" He says, "It means that you're not insane." He's human, but yet he has tremendous courage, and he's respected by his men, but he makes a few bad moves. He really does. Out of love. Truly out of love, maybe booty, who knows, whatever. We're led to believe it's love. The point is, there were rumors of him being a direwolf when he was in battle. Whether or not it was true, probably not. But because of that, I'm going to go with Feral Druid.
Hmm. You know what? Actually, I have no possible way to argue that. I actually have to agree with you on that. I was thinking first for a little bit, just like what you're talking about. I was thinking just quietly to myself, he could be maybe an arms warrior, maybe a red paladin. But now that you say feral druid and the fact like the whole direwolf thing came up, I'm thinking, you know what? Yeah, that'll fit him. That'll fit him real well.
Well, especially that particular scene, which is another reason to illustrate the point. That scene where he's talking to Jamie in prison, and he's like, and Jamie says to him, "Well, you won 3 battles." He says, "That's nothing." He says, "You're still a boy." And then Robb Stark says, "You've been defeated by a boy, and you've been captured by a boy." And I just was like, wow, what a comeback line, you know? And meanwhile, Grey Wind is just standing right in front of Jamie growling. Like if Jamie's going to do anything, he's dead in a heartbeat. That particular scene also makes me lend and lean towards Feral Druid.